On this episode, we discuss where fans of live music can go in Bangkok to get their fix.
So no matter if you're into blues, jazz, rock, hip-hop, or Malam, this episode of the Bangkok Podcast is for you.
Sawadee crap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast, everyone. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a guy who left the frozen Canadian tundra for a sweaty vacation in Thailand in 2001 and never missed the tundra enough to go back.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 17 and a half years ago.
So right off the bat, a big thanks to one of our patrons, Alessandro, who supports the show at the shout-out level. Stick around after we're done talking about live music in Bangkok to hear some juicy gossip about Alessandro.
Of course, one of the cool things our patrons get is an unscripted, uncensored weekly bonus episode where we talk about all kinds of stuff. We just finished recording this week's bonus episode show, and we chatted about political correctness, believe it or not, in Thailand compared to the United States.
Yeah, we didn't even plan to talk about that. We just got off on it, and it's turned into quite a deep conversation.
That's right. Whatever. You have to listen to it to hear it.
Yeah, that was fun. But before we jump into it, I also want to mention something really important here. Now, way back on episode 18 of season 2, our guest was a guy named Sawang Srisom, a disabled rights activist who has been part of the ridiculously long battle to force the BTS to put elevators in all of its stations. And good news, the city has just approved 256 million baht to do just that.
Holy crap, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and it's fantastic. And I don't know why this issue is so near and dear to me. It's so ridiculous to see what disabled people have to put up with just to get around in Bangkok. I mean, it's hard for able-bodied people to walk around, right?
No doubt. Agreed.
Yeah, so now they're going to have elevators on both sides of the street on most BTS stations, which is absolutely about time. So I'm really happy to hear that this has finally resulted in this.
About time. Congratulations.
All right. So on our show a few weeks ago, I gave Ed a bit of an insight into what raising a kid in Bangkok was like. So now it's time for Ed to give me some insight into something I don't know much about, and that is live music in Bangkok. Now, I've seen my share of bands and my share of venues here, but not as much as I'd like to. So Ed, let's get into it. What can we say about live music in Bangkok?
Well, I do think I know a fair amount about it. I got to start out by saying this. Considering how big Bangkok is, I mean, we do know how ginormous this city is. To be honest, I don't really think Bangkok is really that good of a live music city compared to other cities. However, that doesn't mean that there's not a scene here. There definitely is a scene, and I guess you and I are about to get into it. But I don't think it's fantastic for live music. I mean, I don't know. What's your general take? I mean, obviously, you and I have places we like. But I just know, I feel like back in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, of a whopping, I think our population is 1 million people. So it's it's less than 1/10 the size of Bangkok, less than 1/10. And I think just on the east side of Cleveland, there's more live music venues than are in Bangkok.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm from Calgary, and when I left 17 years ago, it was just I think it just hit over 1 million people. So similar size of
roughly the same size.
Yeah, and live music there was a big thing, and obviously you and I are two foreigners, so we are not sort of in the mainstream. But I agree with you. It seems to me like live music in Bangkok is just not something that the people I know get excited about. It's not something that people go to regularly, and it's not something that people build evenings out around.
Yeah, I'm sure obviously some of it has to do with the fact that we're in our own community. Even though we both have Thai wives, we're not constantly hanging out with Thai people. But I don't know. I still think, even if I factor in all of that, I still think there's not a fantastic live music scene here. But
No.
That being said, there is a scene. So why don't you say your piece before I get into all my stuff? What do you have to tell our listeners?
Well, I don't know. It just seems to me that first of all, one of the things I hate about live music in Bangkok is that I hate going to a place and you just want to chill out with your buddies, and there's some band playing some covers of some random, usually the Eagles, and and they just play really loud, and it becomes distracting and you can't talk, and it just makes me want to leave personally. So that sort of backs up my thought that music here is kind of an afterthought. Live music is kind of an afterthought. You know, it's like, oh, well, we'll put some live music in there and everyone will like it. Whereas it works the other way, sort of where I'm used to back home. It's like, here's the live music thing, and we're going to build the event around that. People will come to see the music rather than come to the venue and also have music as an afterthought.
Well, I would agree. I do think, and again, we've talked about this before. There's some weird thing about Thai culture where they just tend to play music too loud. Even if it's an old woman in a market, she plays music too loud. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like I've got a buddy who had a small restaurant in an outdoor food court, and they periodically had live music in this outdoor food court, and just even if it was like a singer-songwriter thing, it was like they played music incredibly loud. You know,
yeah.
You know, it's like
I've left places because the music started. Like, oh, let's get out of here and go somewhere quiet.
Yeah. So,
you know? And I remember going out with one of our friends, John, on Soy 8 one time, and we went to a bar. I think it was a Soy 8 pub. I can't remember what it was called, but the band there was playing noticeably quiet, to the point where you could have a conversation and also listen to them if you wanted to.
Wow.
And John made a point at the end of the night to go up and tip them. He said in Thai, "Thank you guys. I could hear my friends talk. I appreciate it. Great show." And he gave him a bunch of money.
Well, agreed. I do think there's volume issues. And it was weird that is just seems to be like a general Thai culture thing.
That being said, let me finish with saying there are places that I do really love live music to go see it at. And there are places that do it really well. And I'll start with one of the ones that we talked about on a previous show, which is AdHere the 13th.
No doubt.
Yeah, they do amazing blues and I guess jazz sometimes, maybe not. More blues.
Yeah, no, sometimes jazz depends on the night of the week and depends on whatever band is there.
Yeah, but it's a great place, really small, really intimate, and I just love it. They do it perfectly.
What else do you like?
I do like going to like a nice jazz spot like Brown Sugar up in the same sort of area as AdHere the 13th. It used to be down on Soy Surisak.
That's right.
I can't remember the name of the soy, by Lumpini Park. But they moved up to Bang Lampu a few years ago. But they've got some really good jazz, and it's nice to just sit back in a sort of a darkened place with a glass of wine or whatever and chat.
Yeah, I'll talk a little more about Brown Sugar in a second. You know, so it's like I think I just go out and listen to live music more than you do because I don't have a kid.
Definitely, yeah.
And so I feel like I know something about the scene here, but you know, the bottom line is I'm still like an old white guy, so I know stuff that I think is cool, but like what I think is cool is not what a 19-year-old Thai girl probably would think is cool. So, but
probably not.
But maybe most of our listeners are more like me than like a 19-year-old Thai girl. So maybe I can help them out.
Hey, don't start pigeonholing people, man. Maybe they look like you, but inside they're 19-year-old Thai girls. Who knows? Everyone's free to wear sunscreen.
That could be. I'm also just into certain types of music. Like I'm into blues, soul, jazz, and also some kind of singer-songwriter stuff. Like I like one girl or one guy and a guitar. I like that kind of stuff. So that kind of skews my opinion of what I think is good or bad. But that being said, let me give you my take. So I think the way to understand Bangkok is I think there's very clear music scenes. You know, it's like everything is divided into like a scene. So there's kind of like a Thai pop scene that I'm not that into and I don't know much about. And it's all about playing music really loud in really crowded pubs.
Right.
And it's a young Thai thing, and I guess maybe if I was a young Thai person, I'd be into it. But I really have made efforts to get into it, and I can't handle it. It's too loud and it's too crowded, and so I avoid it like the plague.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of a indie music scene that is, I think, more creative, and it's also a little bit more international. So it's the indie music scene here is kind of a mix of Thai and international, and that scene is cool. Although I'm not that plugged into it. But I can recommend a website. So if our listeners check out a website called Live Music Tonight, if you Google Live Music Tonight Bangkok, it'll take you to this website. And basically that website lists all different kinds of gigs happening in Bangkok. But there does seem to be kind of a leaning towards like indie rock and just kind of the indie music scene in general. So I would recommend that site, Live Music Tonight.
Well, it's interesting you brought that up because when I was doing a little bit of research for the show and Googling around, I Googled an old website that I used to go to sometimes called Bangkok Gig Guide.
I remember that site, sure.
closed down. It's gone now. And it seems like it's such an easy thing to do is put together a website that lists sort of this week's gigs, where they are, what type of music there are. But I did stumble onto a site that it's a bit of a tongue twister. The URL is not very good, but it's E7, the number 7, bkklive.com.
Okay.
And they seem to have a pretty good listing of what's going on. You can filter by genre. They've got a map where you can click on the places.
Oh, very cool.
So it does seem to be, like we said, there's not a huge scene here, but the people that are involved in the scene are super passionate about it.
Yeah, I have sympathy for these websites that try to track gigs, because that can't be easy to do. But anyway, listeners, check out those two websites. Another scene in Bangkok that I think a lot of people aren't aware of is like the hotel bar scene. I know that sounds immediately sounds kind of sketchy and weird.
It kind of does. It sounds cheesy.
Yeah, it does. But I'm telling you right now, and I will stand by this, that there's great live music in the better hotels of Bangkok. It's mostly a jazz scene. It's obviously tends to be like older crowd. The drinks obviously tend to be expensive. But the quality of musicians, jazz singers, and jazz players is very high.
Really?
Yeah, essentially what happens is you get these, again, it's mostly jazz, or kind of like nightclub, obviously kind of music. I don't think I'm shocking anyone by saying that it's kind of hard to make a living as a musician, right? And what happens is I think there's a lot of full-time professional musicians in the States or Canada or Europe that are looking for ways to make extra money. And I think that these gigs at hotels in Asia actually pay pretty well, because I think they get room and board. So,
really?
Yeah, because I've met a couple of these musicians in these bars, and they'll sign a 3-month contract with with an agent or talent, like a rep, and they'll do kind of a tour throughout Asia. And they'll spend like a month in Bangkok, and then go to Shanghai for a month, maybe go to a Marriott in Bangkok, and a Marriott in Shanghai, and a Marriott in Tokyo. And, they get to stay in a 5-star hotel, they get meals in the restaurant, and then they get a salary. And
interesting.
And so the musicianship is really good. I mean, I've met some great old jazz singers in some of these bars. And again, it's, obviously it's an older crowd. It's I guess you would call it like upscale. But if you just want to chill out and maybe have one drink that you sip for, an hour and a half, it's actually, I think it's like
sounds like a fun night.
Well, no. If you like music, I mean, so when I talk about live music, I'm talking about people who really like to listen to music. I'm not talking about people who want to see or be seen. You know what I mean? So I guess this episode is for people who love live music.
Right. It's like I was saying, because a lot of times you go out to a place to see or be seen, or to meet with your friends, and the music is sort of an also ran. Like, oh yeah, it's over there too. But you're talking about people who actually like to go and watch the musicians, is like they're watching a movie theater.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. And now, so these other scenes I've checked out, but the scene that I really love is kind of the blues and soul and to some extent jazz music scene. So, of course, AdHere that we've talked about many times, Brown Sugar, which is on Samsen. So those two are not far from each other. And there's another place in Chinatown called Soul Bar. It's kind of small, but it's been around now for a couple years, so I recommend Soul Bar, S-O-U-L, just like what you would expect. Okay. It's one of the few places that I know of to hear live, like soul, R&B, and funk. It's basically like the sounds of the 70s.
Okay, right
that
on.
Bar. Yeah, Soul Bar in Chinatown, I recommend. And then, of course, I bet a bunch of our listeners know there's a place called Apoteka on Soy 11, kind of around the curve on Soy 11. Apoteka has pretty damn good live music. It's usually like a blues band. The Soy Dog Blues Band plays there. A couple other different bands play there. They've got great, not really an open mic, but on Sunday they have musicians that kind of just hang out from about 4 p.m. onward on Sundays. And it's just fun. It's kind of chill and laid back.
Oh, cool.
Nothing But the Blues on Thong Lor. They have, I think now they're open like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and maybe Sunday. They might have like a blues jam. So they only open like half the week. But that's a good live music venue. Like if you really like music, very quality musicians, and definitely worth checking out. And I don't know, do you remember? Do you know the old pub Check-In 99?
Yes, I do. I had my bachelor party there.
Oh, that's right.
I don't remember much of that night, but that was a classic spot.
I do remember seeing you on stage in the bathroom. I don't remember much of that night either.
Yeah, that was about the last memory I had, was me on stage singing Highway to Hell with the with the Filipino backing band.
Anyway, many of our listeners who are longtime expats, of course, will know the place Check-in 99. Check-in 99 is a legendary Thai pub that's been around since the 1960s, although its location was on Sukhumvit. What was it? It was between Soi 3 and 5. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah, I believe 3 and 5. Wait, no, it's between 5 and 7.
Oh, between 5 and 7.
Pretty sure 5 and 7.
Something like that, yeah. 3 and 5, 5 and something like that.
Definitely between 3 and 7.
Yeah. But just about a year ago, I think, it moved to Soi 33.
Yeah.
We talked about Soi 33. So if you just turn on Soi 33 off of Sukhumvit, Check-in 99 comes up on your left. And it's just a different kind of place. It's really like a kind of an entertainment venue. You know, it's a restaurant, but with a proper stage. Like you said before, like live music often is an afterthought, where there's a restaurant and then there's some poor band like jammed into a corner.
Right.
You know, but Check-in 99 is not like that. They have like a proper stage. It has high ceilings, like with proper lighting on the stage. It's almost like a theater. You know, it's got that vibe.
Oh, right on.
You know, it's got that old school. I don't even know what you call it. Didn't there used to be like theater restaurants? I
think they called it class.
Yeah, maybe it is just class. But I want to mention it. I want to give a shout out to Check-in 99 Sunday afternoon jazz jam. If you like to listen to live music, you have to go to Check-in on Sunday afternoons, and I think it starts around 3 to 4 o'clock, because there's just some excellent musicians there. And I think what happens, so besides these professional musicians in the States doing tours in Asia, I think you get a lot of expats who've been playing music their whole lives, or maybe they're former professional musicians. So I don't know, either they're retired or maybe they're just long-time tourists who are staying a long time. So you get people up on stage at Check-in that have been playing for 30 years, been playing for 40 years.
Right.
I strongly recommend it. And then usually the jazz jam goes on for 3 hours, and then there's kind of some time off, and then usually there's a band that night, which is often like blues or a rock band. So,
right on.
I strongly recommend Check-in 99.
I'll have to get a spousal permission unit and spend a Sunday evening over at Check-in 99.
No doubt.
There's three places that I want to mention that I do know a little bit about. The first off is, of course, we got to mention Saxophone Pub up at the Victory Monument. They're kind of a legendary location. They've been there for decades, I think. I haven't been there in probably 10 years, but the last time I was there, they've got some excellent band. It's like T-Bone's home venue, isn't it?
That's right.
The house band.
Well, I was going to mention saxophone. And like you, I went there a lot when I first got here, and then I just kind of drifted away from it. But I did make a trek over there just about 3 weeks ago. So it hasn't changed much. It's pretty much the same scene. But it's a very interesting live music venue because the band is right in the middle of the restaurant, and so the restaurant is kind of built right around the band, and so some of the tables are literally right up against the players. So it's fantastic, and the musicianship is of a very high level. Like I think that I don't think it's easy to get a gig at Saxophone. I mean, it's all professionals. And they really have a variety of music. So you could catch straight jazz in there, but you can also catch like big band music. Like last time I was in there a few weeks ago. It was basically like an 11-piece band. There were like 11 people on stage. They had 2 keyboard players.
Wow.
3 saxophone players.
I haven't seen that since the heady days of Van Halen.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Performing Jump.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's wild. And then on the weekends, especially Friday, Saturday night, they tend to have more blues, rock, kind of party type bands. So Saxophone is absolutely worth checking out.
Another place that I love going to, although I haven't been there in probably 15 years, is the Rock Pub. You ever been there?
God, the Rock Pub, I haven't been there in a while either. Are you sure that place is still there? Did you check?
It's that website I talked about, E7BKK Live. It's still on that website. And it was there up until as recently as a few years ago. I heard someone was there. It's right by Ratchatouille BTS station.
Yep.
I'm assuming it is still there. It is just metal.
Yeah,
awesome, loud metal.
Yeah, there is a metal scene here. I didn't mention it before because I don't know anything about the metal scene, but I
love metal.
Yeah, there is a Thai hard rock scene.
The last time I was there was probably 30 people in the whole place. It's fair size, but not huge. And the guy on stage was belting out Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Maiden, and he was performing as if there was 10,000 people in this place.
Oh,
he
no
was
doubt.
giving it 110%, and it was awesome.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean they're definitely into it. Like there used to be another one. It's not there anymore, but there used to be a hard rock pub on Lang Suan, like back in the day, and it was.
I remember that because it had a big dragon outside.
That's exactly right. But it was the same thing. Like you would go in there and there'd be 15 people in there, but the band was totally into it.
Yeah, it turned up to 11 all the way. And lastly, the place I want to mention, I mean, this is sort of, we're talking about West sort of styles of music that are popular for Westerners. But if you want to expand your horizons a little bit, I always tell people, go to Tawandang.
Oh, no doubt.
Those Thai German brew pubs, there's a series of them all around the city. And not only is the beer good and cold, the food is cheap and delicious, but they've got, it's basically like a Thai version of a German beer hall. And they've got Thai country music live on stage a lot of times. I don't know the schedules, but you'll have to check the website. But you want really authentic, like Ma Lam music, sort of upcountry Thai folk style music. It's great, and it's a fun night every time you go out there.
Yeah, I can second that. It's any of our listeners who've never been to Tawandang, you got to put that top on your list because I've never really seen anything like it. It's a live music venue, but again, they have a stage, and it's more like a stage show. It had almost a little bit of like a vaudeville feel to it. Like
definitely.
They had more than just musicians. They had like a stage show.
Yeah, exactly. And it's up quite high, and people. It's like a vaudeville place, like sort of like the old Moulin Rouge or something like that.
That's right.
It's real fun.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. The last thing I want to mention is that there is a kind of a singer-songwriter scene, but it's not really based in any one place. So you got to kind of look around for it. So Maggie Chu's hosts singer-songwriter nights. Fatty's on Rama 9 often has singer-songwriters come and play, and they also have an open mic night on Tuesdays, which is worth checking out. So if you're into kind of the acoustic thing, I would recommend Fatty's for sure.
Cool, man. Well, I mean, I need several spousal permission slips to get out, and maybe you can take me out to a couple of places and show me around, because I'm seriously lacking in my experience of live music in Bangkok. But it's good to hear after listening to you that there's a lot of choice here. Maybe not as much as there should be or as much as we want, but you can still find good stuff.
That's right. That's the way I look at it. I mean, I think there is a scene here, but when I look at, every time I see Bangkok's population, I keep thinking, damn it, the scene should be bigger than it is. But you know, we got to make do with what we got, and there's plenty of great places to hear music in Bangkok.
Rock on, brother.
No doubt.
All right. Well, last week we tried a new segment that we called Word Association in place of Love, Loathe, or Leave, where I gave Ed 3 phrases and he replied back with the first thing that popped into his mind. Now, I'm not sure about this, but let's do it one more time and see how it goes. And this time maybe we can go back and forth with these in the future. You know, Love, Loathe, or Leave, back to Word Association. We'll see how it goes. If you like it, write in and tell us. If you don't like it, write in and tell us. I don't know what people think of this, but I think it's fun. And this week, let's switch it around a little bit. Ed, you're going to say one word, and I'm going to give you my immediate reaction, and then the second word, and then my reaction, third word.
Okay, I'll do my best. I got 3 words/concepts for you.
Okay,
right.
Lay it on me.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, here's my first word.
Okay.
Pretties.
Loud.
Luktung.
Annoying.
The Boys in Brown.
Corruption.
Wow. Well, you know, it wasn't quite as negative as mine. Like, mine were like straight darkness. Like yours wasn't quite, although it was all negative. Like,
I guess so.
Maybe,
it was. What's wrong with us?
Maybe word association won't work because we'll be like too negative.
Yeah, we'll turn into one of those negative farangs that are like, this is how Thailand should change. For Boys in Brown, I almost said tight, because their uniforms are always skin tight, like neoprene diving suits.
That is pretty funny. That is funny.
But I mean, if you want to talk about the international reputation of Asian police, not necessarily Thai police, it's Asian law enforcement is generally seen as being somewhat corrupt.
That is true.
So, yeah. And what'd you say, Luktung? That's the country music.
Yeah. I don't know. What's the difference between Luktung and Ma Lam? I should know the difference, but I don't.
I don't know. And I know I just talked about Thai country music and how it's great to see, and it is great to see, but it is not something I would ever listen to, apart from a live show.
No, I kind of agree. I'm passionate about the music that I like, but I'm also opinionated, and I don't like all music, and so I've definitely checked out Ma Lam before, and I appreciate it culturally. It's unique. I've never heard anything like it before.
Sure.
But and it's also very it's emotional. It's like there's passion behind it, and it's a kind of like soul / country music. Just the way like country and western is all. It's very emotive. You know what I mean? But I got to admit, I still don't want to listen to it on my own. Yeah,
fair enough. What was the first word?
Pretties.
Loud. Yeah, it's just because the pretties, for those that don't know, pretties are what usually young girls who get dressed up in glam and makeup and sort of are hired to stand there and look pretty and sell products, makeup, or be the motorcycle girl at the display show or the car show or something like that.
That's right.
But more often than not, they're standing there with a microphone and they're screaming into it about something or other, and it goes back to the noise thing. And you're walking by the sort of rotunda in the shopping mall, and it's bah, 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 bah.
Their microphones are so loud. What is up with that?
I don't know. It makes me less interested in whatever they're selling.
The weird thing is it'll be some like cute, literally pretty young girl, but then with this incredibly loud microphone. They should have like an obnoxious, overweight woman like with a loud microphone. That would fit better.
If there's some like big fat Farang New Yorker guy, like I'd sit back and watch that for a while. Hey, how you doing? Hey, you want to come down to Mario's used car lot?
But yeah, no, it's some skinny, cute, like 19-year-old Thai girl with a super loud microphone.
Yeah.
All right. So as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Alessandro for lending us his support at the show shout-out level. And Greg, I think you found out something about Alessandro?
Well, actually, as it turns out, Alessandro is an old friend of mine. I've known him for probably 13, 14 years now. And he's one of those old friends that you hardly ever see despite living in the same city, which sucks because Alessandro is a super cool guy. And we always have really interesting conversations. And Ed, have you ever played Risk?
I have.
Board game Risk?
I like the game Risk.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, Alessandro, being Italian, has a really cool Roman Risk game that's very similar to the original, but with some really neat differences that make it interesting to play. And with Alessandro, I usually lose. So Ale, all I got to say is thanks for the support, buddy. And what I want to say is this. I've been practicing all day, Ed. Amico mio, arriche se mi hai preso a calci in culo e non mi piace l'ananas sulla pizza. Grazie per il tuo supporto. La prossima birra su di me.
Were you just speaking Russian? What was that?
That was Italian, baby.
Sorry, I couldn't tell. No, I'm just joking.
Well, Ale, I hope that made sense. But thanks for the support, man. We really do appreciate it.
I was just teasing Greg. That was excellent Italian. And thank you, Alessandro. We appreciate it. And before we wrap up, I'd like to give a special thanks to all of our patrons who are listening now. As everyone knows, we don't run ads. We don't have any official sponsors at all for the show. So we really, really do appreciate the support we get from our patrons. And if you want to get in touch with us, we are at Bangkok Podcast on Facebook and Twitter, or you can send us a message via the contact form on bangkokpodcast.com, where we're usually pretty good at getting back to you.
Yeah, and you can also, as usual, find us online where we post each episode and carry on conversations with our listeners if you so desire. And you can also reach out to me directly on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg. So thank you for listening, folks, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.
You can also reach out to me directly on Twitter if you're so engaged. Wait, that's not how you say it. If you're so inclined. Let me do that again.